Light No Fire is going to be the next major game released by Hello Games, and it's said to be just as ambitious, if not more so, than their previous major title, No Man's Sky. This time around, we won't be exploring a literal universe, and instead we'll be able to explore a full-scale fantasy Earth with mountains as big as Everest, oceans as deep as the Pacific, and we'll be able to explore, build, survive, and discover what this world has to offer. And that all sounds great on the surface, doesn't it? Well, Light No Fire has the potential to be one of the next great games of the next generation, but there are some factors that we should be worried about. So let's go ahead and get stuck into those. Just quickly, if you're not entirely sure just how ambitious Light No Fire actually is, or you just so happen to be interested in finding out, you should check out my recent video going over exactly that after you've watched this one. It also does talk about the other side of the argument as well compared to this video, so it's always good to get both points of view, right? First up then, let's talk about the size of Light No Fire. Hello Games claim the world we get to explore will be the same size as our very own Earth, which gives us 197 million square miles to explore, which is just nuts. If that's accurate, it will be exactly the same size as the latest Microsoft Flight Simulator game. But the obvious difference being you're flying around at hundreds of miles an hour in a plane versus walking around or flying around on a much slower dragon in Light No Fire. But to create a world this big, Hello Games will of course need to use procedural generation, which they have plenty of experience using with No Man's Sky. The potential issue here though is size doesn't make a game good. No Man's Sky planets, whilst there are 18 quintillion of them, tend to be pretty damn empty, and exploring them doesn't really reap many rewards. The planets in No Man's Sky are also significantly smaller than the current unnamed planet that Light No Fire is going to have, meaning fleshing out this planet is going to be even more of a task than before. The main potential issue here would mean exploration on this vast planet could come across as boring and lackluster. You don't want to be walking around for hours on end to find nothing more than a woodland, an empty desert, mountains with no more than a nice view, or an ocean with nothing interesting going on beneath the surface. Hello Games really need to make sure the planet in Light No Fire has enough content to not only keep players busy for enough time, whilst also making it enjoyable, but it needs to keep bringing players back to it, otherwise the player count is going to drop off almost straight away after launch. And this means there should be a wider variety of points of interest on the planets in comparison to No Man's Sky planets, and they have things like abandoned outposts, trade terminals, crash freighters, and so on. And once you've seen one, you've seen them all. And judging by the trailer for Light No Fire, there will be a whole host of points of interest, and you can be sure we've barely seen any of them in the 2 minutes we've seen from the trailer so far. But it's still a legitimate concern that the planet will be barren with not too much to do. Light No Fire also claims to bring the depths of the role-playing game to the freedom of a survival sandbox. So it is absolutely essential that it appeals to both RPG fans and Survival Sandbox fans with its content. This should obviously include having all of your classic survival mechanics in the game, so things like resource gathering and an in-depth crafting system. And it should also include some of your classic RPG elements, such as in-depth character creation and skill trees as you progress through the game. And finally, it should probably have a story to go with it. And that's no easy task on a game of this scale with a team as small as Hello Games' team. That does lead me on to another possible concern for the game, and this is the survival and RPG elements being rather underwhelming. Not only are Hello Games creating a planet the actual size of Earth, they're making it into a bit of a cross between an RPG and a survival game. Their own words, not mine. Even focusing on just one of these would be a huge task in itself on a planet that big, so to have elements for both make it even more ambitious, but therein lies a potential problem. As I mentioned, survival games, alongside actually having to scavenge resources to, survive, they usually involve an in-depth crafting system for things like weapons, healing, food, base building, and so on. From the Light No Fire trailer, we know we'll be able to chop down trees and use the resources for base building and perhaps other things as well. And that's all well and good, but is it actually going to have any depth to it, or will it be pretty basic with the team having to focus on other aspects of the game? And then you have the RPG side of things. So we're talking about features like character creation and skill trees to level up our character to match our playstyle. Now, from what we've heard already, we know there is some form of character selecting at the start, and we can play as humans, rabbits, bears, and other things. But will there be any depth to this? What I mean is, does each one have different strengths and weaknesses, or will it just be an appearance based thing? Considering Hello Games said Light No Fire will bring the depths of an RPG game to it, you'd hope it's the former, and you'd hope we'll be able to level up our skills as we progress throughout the game. Anything less, and you can't really claim this game is an RPG or has RPG elements at all, really. Moving on, one thing that people kept mentioning in my other Light No Fire video was the disaster that was the No Man's Sky launch and the fact they've lost trust in Hello Games. And that's fair enough. In the years and months before release, Sean Murray had come out and said a whole host of features would be in No Man's Sky, and when we got our hands on it, they were of course nowhere to be seen. But the fact that Sean came out and said all of these things were going to be there meant everyone and their dogs were hyping up the game. And it was said to change the course of gaming, redefine what was actually possible, but it all fell on its arse shortly afterwards. And we certainly do not want to repeat that. It's also partially why I'm creating this video, to try and put people's hopes into check and not to overhype the game. All that being said, obviously in the years since No Man's Sky release, Hello Games have more than made up for its botched launch with a whole host of free content updates, but it's still in the back of a lot of people's mind. Will the same disaster happen once again with Light No Fire? Will Sean be overpromising things and not delivering it? Will this game be just one massive planet with not much going on? Or will they actually release a great game right from the off this time? I'm hoping it's the latter. The overpromise and underdeliver seems to be one of the main concerns around Light No Fire, and you know what? That's rightly so. It's happened before with Hello Games, so who's to say it won't happen again? The flip side, though, is I think that Hello Games have probably learned their lesson from the car crash of No Man's Sky launch back in 2016. I genuinely believe that Light No Fire will not suffer from the same issues at launch as No Man's Sky did. And I also think in the months and perhaps, year or so leading up to its release, Hello Games will be doing the opposite from their No Man's Sky promotion, and they'll be revealing a lot less about the game before we can actually play it. Under promise and over deliver, let's hope they don't do the opposite and have to spend years creating free updates to fix that disaster once again. So whilst these are certainly potential and realistic issues that I've covered, it's not to say that any of these will actually happen come release date. I'm more making people aware of it, and in fact, there are plenty of reasons to be optimistic about the release of Light No Fire, and the most obvious one is that they have effectively brought No Man's Sky back from the dead, and it is now an amazing game to play. You do know that even if the launch of Light No Fire goes a little bit tits up, we can count on Hello Games to make it right and at no extra cost to the player. Though, that being said, it is absolutely essential that they do not have a repeat of No Man's Sky, because that'll be them dead in the water for any future game releases. Hello Games also have vast experience creating and then further enhancing super ambitious games, so we know they can actually do it. They've been working with procedural generation for well over a decade now, so we know they'll be able to make that work as well for a massive multi-biomes planet with hopefully plenty going on. We're also going to be able to see people's creations throughout the planet, and they'll be permanent, so the more people that play the game, the more fleshed out the world will become. And now that I've gone over the other side of the story and gone over those potential issues that Light No Fire could face, I'm not saying they will, and I certainly hope these don't come to fruition, but I'd like to hear your thoughts. Are you excited for Light No Fire? Will you be waiting for reviews to come out before buying it? Are you a bit apprehensive? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. And that's all for today, folks. I hope you enjoyed this video, and I hope it gave you a little bit of a different perspective on Light No Fire in comparison to my other video, which if you haven't seen, you should definitely check out. The link is in the description below. And if you're still here, it would be totally awesome if you could support my channel by hitting those like and subscribe buttons. You can now become a channel member as well, and as always, thank you for watching this video, and I will catch you in the next one.